So we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 2:31, and I truly believe time is a currency. So I want to honor everyone's time, especially those that got here early. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Art is going to get some more chairs, maybe? Or not. If you have a chair next to you, can you? And here's another chair. Here's a chair right here. You can try. I'm inside the software program because they didn't have the connecting that I need. But if you want, you can give it a try as long as, yeah. So typically when you change the format, it doesn't. But I'm inside the actual software. And if you can take that chair. Anybody else have a chair that is free? If you could just raise your hand so people could see it. I think there's just, awesome. Thank you.
Here, you are now there.
Awesome. Is that chair free? Next to you? No, it's not. Well, I love that everyone's here to talk about sex. Like, how awesome is that, right?
Yes.
I was thinking, it's 2:30, it's Friday afternoon, we've already had lunch, I'm sleepy, no one's going to come and talk about sex. I don't know what I was thinking. So, my name is Erica. I am actually, hi, 12-step program. Hi, everyone. Hi, Erica. I am actually going to just do a quick introduction, and then we're just going to get right into the material. I have been a recovering codependent for, my daughter's 24. Oh, my God. 22 years I have been in these rooms, and it is without a doubt one of the most humbling things to do is to have an opportunity to present what tiny little information I've gained through crisis and insight as a result of being in this room and in this program. So today we're going to just sort of take a little peek into a subject that is so broad and so deep and so complex that, even if we had a 3-day workshop, we wouldn't be able to cover it all. So we're just going to take a quick little peek into it. I'm sorry, I'm losing my recorder here because they don't have a clip. Let's see how that's going to work. Let's see how it works. We'll play with it. I'm sorry there's not enough chairs, but, just...
I have a chair here.
Oh, we've got a chair here. Laps,
Laps.
It's about sex. It's not a sexual workshop. So let me just make sure that I'm clear about that. I actually am also doing the keynote on Saturday night. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm used to, I walk around a lot, but since that is stationary, I'm going to just move a little bit to move the slides. This workshop, in case you're not sure if you're in the right workshop, it was actually moved, and it actually has 2 titles. I don't really know why, but you found your way here. Oh no, absolutely. That's why I made the announcement, because if you're in the wrong workshop, or you thought you were in a different workshop, and you find that we're talking about something you don't want to talk about, this is the beauty of being in recovery. You get to leave. So that's why I made that announcement. And yes, we had to play musical rooms because I needed a projector, and it was in this room. So that's what happened, and it all works out good. It always works out good. Everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be. If you think you're supposed to be in another room, but you're in this one, you're probably where you're supposed to be. So let us go ahead and get started. I want to start by just chatting briefly about what's going to happen in this workshop. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how to get your needs met sexually in a non-codependent way, intimacy and the different levels of sexual desire while working the 12 steps. We're going to explore how to have a different kind of sex with your partner, sex with a deeper purpose of healing in recovery. We're going to learn how to reveal your whole sexual self. We're going to expand what turns you and your sexual partner on. Uncover the baggage you bring into the bedroom that blocks ecstasy. Open up a new line of communication using the first 3 steps that will lead and enhance to a deeper sexual connection. And we're going to have Q&A. How I'm going to bend time like that, I have no idea. I present this workshop on a regular basis, and I have a huge block of time. For the purposes of today, it will be condensed. We'll just play with time a little bit. It's all relative, right? So I want to start by asking you and making sure that I want to ask you what questions you might have to make sure that I cover what you wanted as best I can, as best we can in the hour and 15 minutes that we have together. There's a little parking lot, but go ahead.
It sounds like it's going to be mostly for couples.
No.
I thought it was for singles too.
It's for everybody having sex or not having sex, or who wants to have sex, or who had sex at any time with other people or with yourself. Does that cover it? All right. Good. Awesome. Question? Okay, yes. And you know what? I used to say if you can't talk about it, you can't do it. So we're just going to be out here. We're all grown-ups, relatively speaking. And so we're just going to have to go with it. So yes, we will do our best to cover a little bit of that. That's not my wheelhouse, but we'll definitely cover it. Yes.
Navigating sexual boundaries with sexual abuse survivors.
Navigating sexual boundaries with sexual abuse survivors. That is a big, big topic, and we might touch on it. This is a broad brushstroke, so consider it like that.
Has to be sex with somebody that we are falling in love or love him, or just physical necessity?
I'm not sure. What were you saying?
Has to be the partner in love with him, or with or only physical action.
Oh, you want to talk about whether you're having sex with someone you're in love with, or whether you're just having a sexual encounter?
Yeah, I want to ask a question.
Got it. Yes, and that's in our, we know. Definitely we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Definitely we will cover that because that's a really important piece. And, I often say it's not bragging if it's true. So, if it's what it is, it's what it is, right? Anything else before we move on?
Side question, but is your talk on Saturday, is that going to be in this arena or different?
No. No, the keynote is my experience in recovery, which may have something to do with sex, may not. We'll see when I get there. Yeah.
Those of us who've dealt with sexual trauma on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, that's a really big one. We probably won't delve deep into it. That's a deep dive. And so we need to be able to have more time. Again, it's a broad stroke.
Sex with multiple relationships.
Oh yeah, I definitely can talk about that. Yeah, we will touch on that a little bit. You see, we could just let's just change the whole program for the next 2 days and let's just talk about sex for the rest. There's a lot. There is a lot here. There's a lot of material. There's a lot of questions. There's almost very often very little discussion. Very little discussion. I mean, sometimes we can talk about it in the rooms. Sometimes we talk about it as a result of crisis. Rarely do we talk about it as a result of insight. And so I probably could do this workshop for the next 3 days and still not cover everything. But I get it. I absolutely get it. So let's just jump in here. So let's talk about a working definition for the purposes of today. So an intimate relationship is an interpersonal relationship that involves physical or emotional intimacy. Physical intimacy is characterized by romantic or passionate attachment or sexual activity. And that or is really important. It's important especially for us in recovery because we don't live in or. We live in extremes. I lived in extremes as a person in recovery. But for the purposes of today, our working definition, that word or is going to be important. So whether you have a romantic or passionate attachment or you're talking from sexual activity, right? Just pure animalistic sexual activity. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, okay? So, my intent for today is for it not to be a monologue. It is to be a dialogue. And this is the start, hopefully, of a conversation that we'll be having when maybe not, we're having dinner, but certainly at other times when we're sitting around with each other. It is to sort of begin these kinds of deeper conversations about the things that really matter. And so my intent today is for us to really have a dialogue. So, we can get in it. We can discuss. We can debate. There are no absolutes in recovery. It is your own personal experience, and certainly I will share both my experience personally as well as my experience as a counselor. Okay? So, hey, you got a question, don't hold it. We need to be able to have these kind of discussions, and I will do my best to help you frame it if you're not quite sure what the question is, but you have one. All right. So let's talk about how to get your needs met. I hear some laughs. I realized when I use the image, and I really don't use bullet points, I just really use images as my talking points. But I realized when I used that image of the mouth, I was like, well, that's interesting, isn't it? I was like, that's interesting. But I want to talk about how we get our needs met in recovery, especially sexually. Because for us, and it's certainly for me in the beginning, and I'm, moving close towards 50, which is still, on some days I feel like it's really young, some days it doesn't feel quite as young. But really, in my younger days, it was very difficult to begin to understand what my needs were sexually. I mean, I didn't even know, what flavor ice cream I liked. So I certainly didn't know what I wanted sexually. I want to find out from people, before I discuss this a little bit deeper, anybody have trouble getting their needs met sexually? Now's the time. And the reason I ask these kinds of questions is so that we can bring unity within diversity, right? We want to be able to say, oh, crap, I'm just like you. You're just like me. We all have trouble getting our needs met, whether we voice them or not. We all have trouble with that. And so one of the key issues when you're in recovery is being able to speak up and listen up. And I talk about this on a regular basis. Sometimes I'll say listen up, and people, including myself, will get tripped up into considering listen up as if the other person needs to be listening. But what I'm really talking about in recovery is your own deep inner listening. It is almost impossible to get your needs met if you haven't listened to your own inner self to figure out what they are. And for us in recovery who are moving through sexual experiences, it's such a lightning rod because you're vulnerable, right? So to be able to even talk about what your needs are, let alone hear yourself about what they are, can sometimes be a challenge. So I want to give you 3 ways that I talk about on a regular basis on how to figure out and practice. And again, it's all a practice, which can sometimes be fun, sometimes not as fun. Practice getting your needs met, which is to speak up. So what happens is I will do a practice with couples, and I've done with myself, of going to a mirror and saying exactly what I want. Now, in my 20s, it just seemed absurd. Like, really? I'm going to tell myself to move up to the left and down to the right? It just seemed ridiculous. But over time, practicing even talking to myself about what my needs were made it infinitely easier to begin to talk to someone else, right? And where else do you have an opportunity to practice unless you're in the moment, you're in the heat of the experience, let's just say. You really don't have a lot of time to practice. So I often suggest to people, practice saying to yourself what your needs are. We got to be able to verbalize it at least to ourselves. The other thing is that deep listening that comes with sitting still. Some people call it meditation. Some people call it being in the silence. Whatever you want to call it, we won't get tripped up on words, but giving yourself an opportunity to listen with the intention of listening to what your sexual self wants. Oftentimes we'll stop and we in our program, in recovery, we know that we want to listen to our higher power, but we don't give ourselves an opportunity to listen to our inner power. And that is listening to your sexual self, asking your body, what is it you really need? What is it you really want? And so that's what I'm talking about in terms of that deep listening. And the practice of looking at yourself and being able to say, hey, this is what I really want. To the left, up, faster, whatever the case may be. You know where I'm going with it, right? Questions?
Are you making a difference between need and want, or are you kind of putting the two both together?
I think it's a both and. It's always a both and. So for some people, it's a need. It's, I need you to do this faster. Or I need you to do this slower. And for some people, it may be a want. I want to try it this way. I want to try it that way. And so it's a both and. Especially in recovery, particularly sexually. Does that make sense? Awesome. Questions before I move on?
So we're talking here just the physical mechanics.
Right. For this moment, we're talking about the physical mechanics. When we talk about... Oh, yeah.
Can you repeat the question when they ask you a question? Can you repeat it?
Oh, when the audience asks? Absolutely. I will do that. What was the question?
talking about physical mechanics.
Yes, I'm talking about physical mechanics, and I want to shift the gear to intimate relationships, and that's the soft part, less physical, more emotional. How to get your needs met from that perspective. Again, the process is the same. So you're still, whether it is a physical thing that you want to have done or an intimate thing that you want to have done, being able to look in the mirror and say, hey, I would really like to be able to talk to you about how I feel after, before, during. The process is still the same. You want to be able to talk to yourself. You want to be able to listen to yourself. So does that make sense? Yeah. Whether it's physical mechanics or intimate mechanics, the tools are the same. Any other questions? I would love for someone to be my timekeeper because I don't want to be looking at my phone. You guys are like, well, she's texting during the workshop.
What time limits do you want?
Let me know 15 minutes before the end.
Okay, so 3 plays 15 minutes. Got it.
Yes, thank you. All right. Any other questions before we move on? So, in order to get your needs met, you're going to have to be able to listen. Whoops. And you're going to have to be able to speak. Hey.
Yeah, question. And I assume, my question is, my experience has been, if I ask for what I need, I subconsciously view it to be needy. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have that experience? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. His experience is when he asks for what he needs, it feels like being needy. Is that okay? Anybody else have that experience?
If not control, yeah.
Needy or controlling, right? These are the wheelhouses we live in, right? Especially in recovery, that we've decided that anything that we ask for, anything that we want, falls in this category of need or control. And that's not necessarily true in a sexual experience. Because again, it's a personal experience. It's a personal experience and it's a personal pleasure. And so what I often do is ask people to journal about what it feels like to ask and to work through that through the journaling, which is a really good tool for sexual experience because it's so personal. Nobody else gets to have that experience but you. You're the only one in your body. So if that need comes up, that sense of I'm needy by asking for you to do this or talking to you about this, or I'm controlling by asking for you to do that, one of the other ways that we deal with this in recovery is to just observe. We don't have to do anything about it. You can be aware, when I ask you to do that or when I talk to you about this, I feel needy or I feel controlling. That can be the end. Just observe. And then let it go. Oftentimes we get into, I must do something about what I'm experiencing or what I'm feeling. And that's not always necessary, particularly sexually. Just having the awareness can oftentimes dissipate the feeling. Okay? Any other questions? Awesome. All right. Yes?
Well, if you say that, and what if your partner is saying that to you?
That's a good question. What if the partner is saying to you, that sounds needy, that sounds controlling? Yeah, too bad. Sometimes we have to hold it like that. Particularly for us in recovery where we get caught up on, oh God, did I miss a step? Am I paying attention? Yeah. Sometimes it is that. Which is why the deep listening comes into play. And sometimes it's just being able to say, yeah, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. And letting that go. And in recovery, in my personal experience, after 20 some odd years in, I'm okay with that. I'm okay that someone else feels like what I'm saying is needy or controlling. That's their feeling, not mine. Right? Other questions? Great dialogue. Art. Mm-hmm. So his question was, what if the response to the question is a no?
Do we accept it?
Accept it, find another partner, move on. Not that I want to be crass. I definitely do not. But I do want to be clear. In our sexual experiences in recovery, what happens is the lines get so blurred that we can no longer differentiate between what feels right and authentic for us and what other people have going on. Which is why the listening becomes that inner listening becomes so critical. Right? And yeah, you can, quite frankly, to be real bold, if I'm in a relationship with you over a number of years and I'm asking for this and I'm saying this is what I need, this is what I'd like, and you can't give it to me, well, then I need to make some decisions, right? It's not personal. It just is. Yes. That's good. The question was, do I have to do whatever my partner is asking me to do? Is that the right question? I'm going to ask the group. What do you think? No. There you go. You guys are brilliant. You really don't need to be in this workshop. Right. You learn to say no, right? Yes.
So mine is piggybacking off of her. This is the sole cause of every argument in our marriage. She needs. I don't.
Uh-huh.
I tried to kill myself a month ago over this. But yeah, we're committed.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with it because I know it's my body.
Mm-hmm.
He knows it's my body.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants and doesn't understand the issues it gives me.
Uh-huh.
I had to do a brain dump about 3 weeks ago. They took me 2 hours to write
Uh-huh.
a journal.
Yeah.
I'm just stymied. I'm just putting it out there because this is a room we're talking about. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. And so it wasn't necessarily a question. It was an experience you're having, a statement.
It's
Yeah.
not my need.
Yeah. And that has to be okay. In recovery, what happens is we continue to try to think that we need to make it okay. And sometimes it's just not okay. It's things aren't okay. The answer isn't revealed to us, especially sexually when it's nothing is more charged other than maybe perhaps finances than sex. Right? Kids, finances, sex. Kids eventually grow up or you put them out or whatever. So eventually that comes to an end. Sex, not so much. You still, or you just run out of money, so then that's the end of that. But sex, it just doesn't happen like that, right? So it is something that is ongoing, and especially if you're at an impasse, oftentimes I will suggest, and I have taken the suggestion, to just let it be. Because something will emerge. At some point, something will emerge. Either you will decide to make a transition, they will decide to make a transition,
Or you'll find another solution.
Right, you'll find another solution. Something will emerge. I often suggest that if the answer isn't clear, then there's nothing you need to do. That's what I suggest. Take a deep breath and put pause. Right? There you go. I know. We like to make it complex. Right. Well, we like to make things complicated. That doesn't mean things aren't complex, but we don't need to make it complicated. Okay? Let's talk about levels of desire. And when you have someone that has perhaps a high level of desire to maybe be fulfilled sexually, physically, and you have maybe someone that has a high level of desire to be connected emotionally or intimately. I often see that in my practice. Or both. Yeah, one wants it all, one wants nothing. And that often happens for us in recovery because as we're doing that deep inner work that's at a cellular and cellular level, what tends to happen is we're going through changes, much like a woman who's on her cycle. You're always in the cycle. And so sometimes you're feeling more sexual and less sexual and all of that. I mean, I imagine men go through it too, but my point of reference is for women. But really, sexually, you go through cycles as well. Maybe, you're tired, whatever. You just ate a lot and your stomach hurts. I don't know, whatever the case may be. But there's always different levels of desire. And how do you navigate that in recovery? You honor your own process. You honor your own process. And that means if, I don't know, you've got diarrhea, you don't feel good. I mean, I'm not trying to be gross. I'm just saying this is what I'm hearing. This is what I hear in my practice. It's what I hear. And so I'm like, okay, whatever that is, whatever is causing that lack of desire or that increased level of desire, you honor the process. Anything that's happening in your sexual relationship while you're in recovery, the answer is to always honor your process. I know, it's just like, really? How do I do that? Honor your process for me personally means allowing yourself to be right where you are. When you honor something, let's just play with it a little bit, you're giving it a place of reverence, right? I'm going to honor, use people. I'm going to honor you with this award, or I'm going to honor you with my listening, or I'm going to honor you with my words or my attention. It's the same true with the process. I'm going to give this process a place of honor. I'm going to let it sit here. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to explore it. I'm going to be with it. I'm going to give it a sense of reverence. So that's what I mean when I say honoring your process. Here's where I am. And I'm going to let myself be there. I'm going to allow myself to be there. Does that make sense? You honor your process. If you're, say for instance, she said, how does that work with your spouse who may have a high libido and you, I'm just not saying you particularly, and someone else, the other person doesn't have a high libido. How do you honor the process? The words I used was honor your process. I didn't use the words honor their process and your process. Honor your process. So if you're having a high libido and you're like, hey, I'm ready. Intimately, physically, emotionally, I really am ready to have that, then you go for it. If you're not, then you've got to honor your process. I am not there right now. I'm not feeling sexual. I'm not feeling turned on. I'm not feeling whatever it is you're not feeling. It doesn't really matter what the other person is experiencing. That's why we say honor your process. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So is that suggesting that they go out and cheat?
No.
So how are they honoring their process?
She's saying she's confused because she's trying to understand the person that does not have a high libido, they're not going to get any, or they're
going to get what they want.
They're going to get what they want. The person that does have a, are you saying it's good volume or what was the thumbs up? Oh yeah, it's here. It's still here. Sorry. The person that maybe doesn't have a sexual desire may get their need met, but the person that has a high sexual desire may not get their need met. And so her question was, am I suggesting that the person go out and cheat? Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm not suggesting anything. I am saying that if let me just break it down, real personal. My partner of 7 years, who's now no longer my partner, had no sexual libido. I mean, at the beginning, at the middle, at the end, and it just gone. I did, and still do. So for a number of years, I was like, you know what? Are we going to do it? We're going to do it. We're not going to do it. Are you sure? We're not going to do it. What's happening? Or what's happening? Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? And so I needed to honor my process, which was I am going to ask you every night for the next 2 years whether or not we're going to have sex. That was my process. Now, I ended up going out and having an affair. I'm not suggesting that. So that's why it's a great question for you to ask. I'm not suggesting that as an answer. What I'm suggesting is that I kept honoring my process by saying to them, here's what I need. Consistently, clearly, confidently. Right? And then I made a choice that, may or may not have been the best choice. I mean, in the moment it felt like the best choice. I'm not saying it is the right choice. Does that make sense? Yeah. I don't mind bearing my soul. I tend to be very transparent. Yes?
What I'm hearing you say in most of your statements are, we that are in recovery. And that's where I hear a big issue. If one person is in recovery and the other isn't, there generally is a definite lack of communication. So if that is the situation, and I'm being true to who I am and honoring my process, and that other person is not in recovery, I'm not going to go out and cheat because that's not in my sense of honor and duty. Then I think you bring in a whole other, you're getting down to the basis. You need to be able to communicate. And
yes, absolutely. So it was really more of a statement. So what I do want to say about that is, I've had both opportunities to be in relationship with people in recovery and relationship with people not in recovery. It does tend to be a little bit easier if they're in recovery. The level of communication tends to be easier. But I always put the onus on myself because I'm the one in recovery. So it's my responsibility. As you know more, you have to do better. That's just me personally. I didn't put it on them because they weren't in recovery. I was. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be either or.
Yeah.
So it's not either I don't get what I want or I have to go out and cheat.
Yeah.
So the solution I found was to get a girlfriend. My wife was physically incapable of having sex because of a medical issue. And we talked about it, and she was fine with that.
Yeah.
And so, I was able to get my needs. She was able to be okay.
Yeah.
So
there are lots of ways. I mean, I practiced polyamory for years and years and years. So I've played all sides of the team. So yes, there are other ways. It's not either or. It is about the communication and the level of relationship that you want to have.
So you hung in there for 7 years being rejected? I mean, didn't you feel frustrated? I mean,
yes.
I mean, doesn't he think I'm desirable? All those questions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All of those questions come up. But again, that was my own personal inner work that I needed to do. And yeah, I did. And the growth was exponential in my own personal development. And that was, again, honoring my process and honoring my choice. Absolutely. Yeah.
You say, you referred to while you're in recovery, but I don't know, for me there's no real end.
Well, yeah, just for purposes of conversation. I mean, I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery. I don't know if I'll always be in recovery. I can't really say. So I tend to use very present tense while I'm in recovery, which is right now. Where I'll be in 10 years, I don't know. I only have today. Yeah.
My question is, I've been in recovery a little over a year. So what, there's this confusion for me about accepting sex when I want love. I think I have some shame around saying, yeah, I just sometimes maybe want sex, but what is even what is okay for me and around being, I don't know, that's a very confusing statement, and my recovery around that is just all foggy.
Yes. So she's saying that her recovery around understanding the difference between when she wants sex and when she wants love is fuzzy right now. Is that appropriate? Yes. And yes, you said you're a year in recovery? Yes. Yeah. That's exactly where, we tend to be, a year in recovery. So much has been churned up, so much has come up. And so typically in our literature we suggest, waiting a little while before you, and a little while is relative. It's based on you. For some people a year's nothing. For some people a year's eternity, So I tend to suggest to people who are still foggy, if you don't know what to do, it's usually best not to do anything until the fog clears, until it lifts. And that lifts by coming to meetings on a regular basis, working with your sponsor. You kind of know this already. And beginning to have discussions, journaling. And again, I'm going to go back to that deep inner listening to your higher self. That will give you, I cannot stress enough the importance of self-discovery sexually. So those would be my, not that you asked for suggestions, that's been my experience. Okay. Ready? Awesome. So, I'm not sure what's happening. The best resolution is, I don't even know why that's so. I don't know. Okay, how to reveal your whole sexual self. I just love this because here's these two guys having tea. They look like they're just so civilized, But my idea around this is what does it actually mean to reveal your whole sexual self? Not only what does it mean, but how do you do it? Do you just could you please pass the jelly and, I'd like for you to, do this particular sexual position. How do you do that? Really the way to do it is just to do it. You can read everything you possibly want to read about swimming. That does not make you a swimmer. It's the same with revealing your sexual self. You can talk about it within yourself and you can talk about it with other people, but until you get in and you're sitting having tea, let's just say, and you start saying, hey, I wanted to tell you that this intimacy that we have freaks me out. And I love the sexual encounter we're having, but I don't feel like I can be my whole self because it makes me fall apart emotionally. I'm just using that as an example. You know what it is for you. But you have to be willing to get into the conversation, even if you don't know how the conversation is going to go. For people in recovery, I like to try to control things, and if I say this, then you're going to say that, and then you'll say this, and then I'll say that, and then that will be how it works. I mean, it just doesn't go like that.
Can you give an example of what a person's whole sexual self might look like or be?
Well, I think the question was, can I give an example of what a person's whole sexual self might be? I would say, that was the question, right? I would say, of course, it's individual. My whole sexual self encompasses both physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological. That's not necessarily true for everyone. For some, their whole sexual self is strictly physical. So again, it's an individual understanding of what your whole... So for me, when I'm in a sexual relationship, it all has to line up. I need it all to line up. And then I act on it. Or I'm revealing my whole sexual self by saying, for me, a sexual encounter is a spiritual encounter as well. But that's me and my whole sexual self. For someone else, it's like, I just want to do it. I just want to physically do it. That's where I am. I don't have anything deeper going on than that. That's what it is for me. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the question is, when I say revealing your whole sexual self, you're saying, do you reveal it just to yourself, or do you reveal it to yourself and your partner?
It's both.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So when you're revealing your whole sexual self, of course you have to do the self-discovery first. You can't really reveal it to anybody else until you know. So you reveal it to yourself, and then you reveal it to your partner. If that's the type of sexual experience and sensual experience and intimate experience you want to have. If it's just a one-night stand or whatever, then perhaps revealing your whole sexual self is not necessary. But if it's a long-term relationship, or you want to have a long-term relationship, you may want to reveal something deeper, right?
I, like you, have the psychological, spiritual, physical, and emotional part. I find all those sexy, but I'm having trouble getting them to line up. I mean, seriously, how do I...
Yeah.
For me personally,
Yeah.
not so much the other person, because I could do that, but for me to be able to have them all intertwine and get a whole sexual self, I want to know how to do that.
Practice, right? And this is fun, right? This is the fun part. I mean, if we choose to look at things, we get to decide based on our perception whether something is fun or not fun. And for me, getting all of those pieces in line has been a quite thrilling and interesting trek. It's also been a trek that has taken time. It's taken time for me to get those things lined up for myself. And then it's taken more time to be able to describe that to someone else. And then it's taken more time to be able to have them understand it. So it's taken time. Again, I have to be patient with the process, and then I have to practice. It's not a sort of a one-time-fits-all kind of thing.
I've been practicing a long time.
You're just ready for it all to line up.
Well, I just want some tips on how to make that happen. I know practice, but I'll be dead by then.
I love it. So some tips that I often suggest is having a conversation on the front end, not on the back end. Some of the tips that I also suggest to other people is choosing not to explore a sexual experience with someone because you already know that they can't meet you where you are. Does that make sense? You're just you're having great conversations, you've gone out, you like them, but spiritually they're not in alignment with you. So you don't take the bait. For lack of a better way to say it, I probably should say it in a nicer way.
Don't waste your time.
There you go.
So, for me, I had to go find additional information and seek out spiritual sexual practices that I learned, like Tantra or Kodoshka. This stuff has been around
Kama
for
Sutra, yes.
years.
Yes.
It's not like no one knows it.
Right.
And that was the way I got those to line up for me.
Yeah. And again, I learned infinitely more about lining things up by what I didn't do than what I did do, if that makes sense.
That gets into the issue of flow of the conversations, you know, where a partner says, don't do this. I mean, that doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I can't, what's the next step? Okay, I can't do that. Or I don't want you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I much prefer to hear, what do you want?
Right. And that, again, that's the higher level of conversation that you begin to have. You know, your first date's probably not going to have that conversation. But with time, you'll discover, we all discover, oh, I really can have this deeper conversation with you. And you can really have it with me. Right?
Some situation, if the husband, most of the time, when instead of make sex with the wife, goes to pornography or some make himself satisfied with some kind of things, and then once a while, maybe 6 months once, make sex with the wife and say, why you don't do that? You can do that too. You can get some artificial one. Why you don't? And then present for her such like this stuff for her and said, oh, why you don't do that? Many girls do that. I said, no, I don't do that. Normal sex with you.
What do you do? So the question is, let me see if I can synthesize it. The question is, you have somebody that wants to have some kind of extreme or exotic or different sexual experiences and may see them on porn sites, or, you know, they heard it at the gym, whatever. And or then they want to try that, and you don't. That's the question? Okay. Right. So your question is that okay? Right? Oh, well, then there you have it. There you have it. Like, oh, that's great that you've gotten the site, that you've got the pictures, that you've talked to me about it. It's not okay for me. Back to honoring your process and what works for you. I cannot drive that home enough. Our sexual experiences are only as good or bad as we allow them or accept them or create them. Right? And for us in recovery, when we have soft boundaries in the rest of the world and sometimes sexually, then they cross over. The same firmness that you develop other boundaries in other areas of your life are the same. You bring the boundaries to the bedroom, right? Does that make sense? Bring the boundaries to the bedroom. Yes?
It seems like men are more visual, and I notice, like, for me, I have a sexual abuse background, and I'm very sensitive. People always say, like, talk about my looks, and I feel like if I say that, like, don't tell me what you think about how I look, that's very offensive. Like, the man would think, geez, you know?
Uh-huh.
Do you hear that about that kind of conflict?
So let's talk about sexual abuse, because it is... it's. I would say probably 50% of my practice has a lot to do with people who have had sexual abuse in their life. And sexual abuse is such a delicate experience for everyone, and people bring different things from that sexual abuse. So for you, that feedback around how pretty you are and how whatever it is they're saying doesn't feel right for you. So that's basically the question you're asking. Yeah. And so how to navigate that, or is that, yeah, honor your process. If they can't honor it, then they can't be in relationship with you.
But what would I request?
Exactly what you said. When you say to me how beautiful I am, or my hair looks this way, or, you know, that doesn't feel good to me. I'm assuming are you talking about in long term or just a new relationship?
Yeah, long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if you constantly hear about the visual.
Right.
You know.
And yeah, some people, I don't want to just put it on men, but some people are more visual. And so that's something that is important to them. And and oftentimes I suggest to people that they can think, and, you know, the person can think whatever they want to think. They don't have to share what they think.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if he thinks you look gorgeous and you look hot or whatever storyline he has, he is absolutely free to think it. You would prefer he not share it with you. Right? That's absolutely okay. Yeah.
I'm wondering about the
emotional side of it, my husband and I, we had a really good thing. Then alcoholism got in the way. Now major trust issues, to the point where our emotional intimacy went down the tubes. And this went from a really hot relationship to zero.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out how to get the emotional intimacy going so that we can have a sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't do it. You know, I can't look at a picture and say, okay, let's do it.
Right.
I got to have the trust.
Right. And so the question is, how do you get return back or regain trust after it's been broken, so that you can have a more richer, fuller, deeper sexual relationship? That's the question. So again, trust is one of those things that it takes years to build and 2 seconds to destroy. And understanding that, you sort of have a built-in answer. It's going to require a level of time and consistency. Being where you say you're going to be, doing what you say you're going to do, consistently, and helping your partner understand that there's, nothing's happening for me sexually because I don't trust you. And until that can happen, nothing's happening here. With the intent of, I want it to be. So we always start with intent in our deeper sexual relationships. It's like, what's your intent? Is your intent to just have a quickie, or is your intent to, have 6 hours worth of sex? What's your intent? Is your intent to go deeper emotionally, or is your intent to just, get what you need and keep it moving? So being clear about what your intent is, being able to share that with your partner in a way that's clear and consistent. I cannot tell you enough that most sexual trouble happens when people aren't consistent. On Tuesday, don't touch me because I don't trust you. On Friday, okay, well, let's do it because I just want to please you. That inconsistency doesn't create an atmosphere of trust. Not only do you not trust them, but they can't trust you. So consistency is key to developing trust. Whether that's sexually, intimately, emotionally, psychologically, that consistency piece is critical. Does that make sense? The message is the same every single time until it changes. And then it's the same every single time once it changes. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you don't want them in your life, then that's the end of it. But for the purposes of this question, I hear that you're there. You're in relationship with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah. Yeah. So your intent is to rebuild that trust.
Exactly.
Right. So it really is about, for some, you broke my trust, that's it, it's over. For some, it's like, we need to rebuild this. Right? Does that make sense? Again, it's about being clear. I have a partner who said, hey, if you sleep with someone else, it's over. That's what they said from the beginning. That's what they say in the middle. That's what they say in the end. There is no question in my mind that that's what they want. Right? And they're very clear and consistent about it. Now, I get to choose whether to honor that based on what I want, but they're very clear about what they want. Right?
What was it you said they wanted?
They wanted me to be fidelity. They wanted me to be committed in a monogamous relationship with them. Yeah. All right. So, deeper sexual experience. First, I just like this image. I was just like, this is a great image. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about, but the image is rocking. So as you can see, a deeper sexual experience, and I'll use this image as a conversation piece. Partly it's physical, but partly it's emotional. And using these two people, you can kind of see that there's some kind of emotional connection. And that, for many people, leads to a deeper sexual experience. Establishing that leads to a deeper sexual experience for many, as well as spiritual. The partner that I am with now, we meditate on a regular basis together. And that, for me, has developed a deeper spiritual connection. But that's for me. So in order to have a deeper sexual experience for me, we have to develop a deeper spiritual connection. We have to develop a deeper emotional connection. We have to, there's some other pieces that have to go into place before the deeper sexual, physical experience can happen. For some, it's the other way. I need to see what I'm buying first. I don't mean like buying literally, I just mean metaphorically. But, some people, they need to, let's test it out. Let's take the car for a drive first before I, And that's, again, whatever gets you to that deeper sexual experience only happens with self-knowledge, right?
So I was going to ask this earlier, and I'm glad you said it now, is, you meditate together to get to a spiritual, sexual experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you elaborate on that?
Like, give like a detail, what it looks like?
Sure, I don't know.
Right. So we sit, we have a meditation practice where we sit. It's not Tantra, it's not Kama Sutra. It is literally, oh, thanks, I'll fix it. No worries. So we will sit and do breath work. We'll do some spiritual reading, and then we're sitting in the silence. And that's a consistent practice for me and most of my partners, which is why some are not partners anymore. But that piece around spirituality and connecting the pieces in the silence is very important for me. So it's, usually 30 minutes on a regular, very consistent basis of sitting in the silence.
But it's not necessarily a prelude.
Not anymore. I mean, depending on where I am in relationship with them. With my partner currently now, we sat in the silence a long time before we got to sexual encounter. That's not always the case. That's not always true for previous relationships.
Where are you finding your partner so we're willing to do that?
The meditation store. Go online. Church. I'm a minister. No, church. Yeah. I mean, again, I really, practice that law of attraction, and people that know me or want to know me know that that's part of my cosmology, that's part of my makeup. So, that's what happens. Okay. So, any other questions about a deeper spiritual, sexual experience? Thoughts? All right. How are we doing on time?
We're at 3:27.
And this ends at
17 minutes.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let's
expand it.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. She did it for me. So, expand what turns you and your sexual partner on. This sort of piggybacks on what we were just talking about, which is being able to expand what turns you on. I mean, most of the time in the couples that I do counseling with, they're usually doing the same thing all the time. And, after a while, you just don't want broccoli. I mean, you just broccoli's not bad. You still love broccoli. You just don't want to eat broccoli anymore. It's not personal about broccoli. You just want to do something different, right? Now, whenever you guys eat broccoli, you're going to think of Seth. So in order to expand what turns you and your partner on sexually, you have to explore. You have to be adventurous. It also means you have to be willing to take a risk. You may try a position, you're like, yeah, it's just, no, that's not happening. Or you may try something and you're like, this is awesome. But you're not going to know if you're just thinking about it intellectually. In order to expand what turns you and your sexual partner on, you're going to have to practice. You're going to have to practice. You're going to have to venture out or venture in or, venture up or down. That risk has to be a part of expansion, right? That we got to the moon by taking a risk. Sure, we could all crash and burn, but we didn't. We landed on the moon. And that's the same truism for us sexually. Sure, we may try it. I don't have an orgasm. You don't have an orgasm. I hate you. Whatever may happen. But you're not going to know until you venture into uncharted territory, right? So you're going to have to be willing to expand. If all you guys do is have sex in the bedroom, I don't know, venture into the living room. See what happens.
So, in terms of expansion, given that codependence and recovery have issues around control, how do you deal with BDSM?
I have a number of couples that, in order to deal with issues of expansion, how do you, so people in recovery sometimes have trouble with BDSM.
No, they have issues with control.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that in terms of sexual play in a BDSM?
I suggest couples move slowly. What's BDSM? Bondage, sadomasochism. So, yes, I know. All of a sudden the room was like, uh-oh. Everybody gets all constricted. That's okay, just breathe. We're all right. There's not going to be any demonstrations. It's all right. It's all right. So here's what happens. If you want to explore something that's on the edge of your comfort zone, you do it slowly. And if it feels too uncomfortable, you back up a little bit. And then you go back in a little bit. So speed is the key, right? So that's typically what I suggest to couples. Communication, clarity, consistency, and speed. That's what I suggest to couples, right? And then there's also the esoteric pieces, how do we, do we sit and expand our mind? Do we just talk about sex in the ethereal? Do we, it could be all of it. It's not one sexual experience fits all. It's not what worked for me at 25 doesn't work for me at 45. So again, it's being willing to be adventurous in a way that's safe for you. Right? All right. Let's see where we are, because I want to make sure. All right. Baggage you bring into the bedroom that blocks your ecstasy. I was trying to look for designer suitcases, but this is what I found. So if you've been on the planet for any length of time, you're going to have baggage. In recovery, we tend to, and actually in general, our society has become one where I don't want anybody with any baggage. Well, how is that going to happen? How exactly, if you've been on the earth at any given length of time, you're not going to have baggage? Cut the crap. We all do. We all have it. But you have to begin to realize that you have it, where you want to put it, when you need it, and when you don't. And so oftentimes what happens for couples sexually, and this certainly happens for me, is that when that baggage appears, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to just set you over here. I promise I'll come back and get you, but I'm going to set you over here while I'm in the middle of this sexual experience. Or it comes up in the middle of the sexual experience. And I'm able to say, you know what, I am freaking out right now. It's baggage, it's from the past, I know it's here, we can unpack it now, or we can get off and then unpack it. Whatever the case may be, but here it is. And then being able to experience the ecstasy with the baggage. You see what I mean? So we're no longer in a consciousness where it's like, oh, you can't have any baggage. It's like, but yes, we have baggage. How do we maneuver? How do we work with it? It was mind-blowing to me when I got a suitcase that could swivel. I was like, this is brilliant. Why didn't we think of it before? Now, lugging my suitcase through the airport is not traumatic for me because it rolls differently. Then it's not traumatic. I don't have to worry about getting rid of the suitcase because it works with me, not against me. And in recovery, that's what we begin to look for, especially in order to have the type of ecstasy that we'd like to have in sexual experiences and in relationship. We begin to work with the baggage, not try to make it disappear or work against it. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Yes.
Is there a family of origin baggage?
Oh, yeah, they're part of it. That orange suitcase, that was the family right there. Yes.
I get this is really a couple's question. It's not particularly emotional or sexual. It could be financial. But I've been on both sides of the following statements. I don't know what I want. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know what I want, but it's not that. This one. Yes, you are right. I used to want that. Now I don't. I do not have to be perfectly consistent. I am a human being. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your question is just making statements. That's been your experience?
How do you navigate this stuff? Yeah.
How do you navigate it?
Yeah, it's basic. Yeah. Is it just, on your process, the universal answer, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing. That it is a universal answer because it works. Right? So that's why he's saying, how do you honor when you have all of these statements of truth or factual that change and shift, right, during your relationship in a couplehood?
Or okay, you ask what you want. job one, what the hell do I want?
Right, right. So again, it goes back to the very initial slide, is beginning to understand with that deep inner listening to your inner self and being able to talk to yourself. Highly evolved people talk to themselves. They have conversations with themselves.
I do that all the time.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Right. I heard a joke say, I always talk to myself. It's the smartest conversation I can have. And I do believe that's true. I mean, at some point, you have to be willing to talk to yourself about what's true, what's not true, what works, what doesn't work. You have to be able to listen to yourself, and then you have to be able to have a conversation with the person that you love or that you're involved with. And that is why honoring your process is the universal answer. It's true throughout our entire lives. So, yes, you are going to have those questions come up, and you're going to sit on both sides, which brings to mind compassion. No matter what sexual encounter you're having or not having or want to have or didn't have or should have, compassion is part of your toolkit in which to navigate it. Right? Compassion for your understanding and compassion for your lack of understanding. And empathy for the people you're involved with. Does that make sense? How do you navigate it? You use compassion and empathy along with your own process. I can't stress that enough. There are no absolutes. There just aren't. Sometimes what worked for you, doesn't work anymore. So you have to try something else. And you can't try something else if you don't have compassion for yourself. So that's often what I suggest.
This isn't a question, it's a statement. The hardest thing is just waiting in the fog.
Yes.
For whatever, whenever.
Yes, right. And we live by don't just stand there, do something. It's actually the reverse. Don't just do something, stand there. Because oftentimes we start doing a bunch of stuff that creates a whole bunch of stuff, and then, not only are we not having sex, but now we've made a mess of the relationship. The whole thing implodes on itself. Whereas if we just stood in the fog for a minute, I can't see what the hell I'm doing. For a minute, for a little while, a minute is relative, for a little while, the fog clears, and then we know what to do. Right? All right. So, new lines of communication. So these first 3 steps, again, as we all have come to know and love them, are valuable in our sexual experiences, right? Admitted that we're powerless over others, that our lives have become unmanageable. Sometimes in my sexual life, it becomes unmanageable. It's just unmanageable. I don't know how to get what I need. I don't know what they need. I don't want what they need. Whatever. And that is that level of unmanageability in my sexual life and in my intimate life. Sometimes I'm so fuzzy and so unclear that my sexual life has become unmanageable and I'm powerless over myself and others. That's how we incorporate this step sexually. And being able to admit, okay, well, these areas of my life are working. I'm working my program, but my sexual life is unmanageable. It's just unmanageable. I don't even know what to do with it right now. Came to believe, again, these same steps work for us sexually, intimately, physiologically, and psychologically. In all of our affairs. Right, that wasn't just theory. That's real. In all of our affairs, that's even orgasm, It does. It works it works there. I mean, of course, we don't evoke the 12 steps when we're getting ready to get off, but after or before, we can, right? They're not just saying that as theoretical. In all of our affairs, or, whatever affair you're having in the moment. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. Many people, what I find in my work, sex is here and God is here. I can't talk about sex with God, because God, isn't okay with sex. Really? I feel like you can. Again, turning our will, which is whatever our sexual desires are, whatever, in our lives over to the care of God. That means, my orgasm. That means my lack of orgasm. That means my body image. That means what I think about them. Really, we have to be willing to not hold sex over here and God over here as though it's separate entities. And being able to have that conversation. Typically, there are some religions that, it's a little bit, more challenging than others. But the God of our own understanding is really where we are with it, right? So bring God into your sex, or bring sex into God, whatever you want to do. Somehow God has to be there in your sex life, right? Any other things that we want to talk about before we go to Q&A, or before I make sure? 5 minutes. Oh. Yes, it says right here it's 3:40. Anything else? I know that this was a really broad brushstroke. This is a deep, rich, fertile subject, for lack of a better way to describe it. But my purpose for this workshop was to start the conversations, to begin. I mean, I didn't see any other sex workshops on there. So, this is it. This is what we got. So, yes.
I'd like to hear more about the healing. I'd like to know what can be healed using sex, and how do you use sex to heal something?
Yes, that's a great question. So, let me just share with you personally what happened for me, because of course it's individual, what can be healed based on what your wound is. I believe, she said, what can be healed with sex and what can't, and how do you use sex to heal. So for me personally, I had a tremendous amount of control issues sexually. It was just a big deal. It was just like, I'm telling you when to do. I was down to telling people when they could come and when they couldn't. Like, we're talking really controlling. And what I began to realize was that I could heal that by allowing myself not to control. I could heal control by allowing myself not to control. And I know it sounds like it is a bit of a paradox, right? And so I ended up finding a partner that I definitely wouldn't categorize them as being controlling. I would say more domineering, which is tough to do because I have a really strong personality. But I spent the time discovering what kind of personality construct could help me be a little less controlling, right? And thus allowing me to be healed of my need to control sexually. Does that make sense? And there's also, for me personally, I also had a lot of issues around vulnerability. Many people do. But when you're controlling, it's the other side of that is you don't want to be vulnerable. And so really, the healing around being willing to be vulnerable came when I knew that I had someone that could hold the space for me to be. Could hold the space for me to fall out, cry, whatever it is I needed to do. But I had to find a partner that had the gravitas and the insight that could, right? And thus allowing me to be healed of my need to not be vulnerable. But that takes time. So sex became a healing modality for me when I found the partner that could allow that healing to take place, that really fully understood what it was. Once I could articulate it, again, the responsibility isn't on them, the responsibility is on me. And so that's for me personally. A lot of people have some unresolved issues because of abuse. Those things I don't necessarily, I think there's a fine combination of working with a professional, there's a combination of working with people that have been victims of the same sexual trauma, and then the exploration of sex. Does that make sense? So it's more of a three-pronged approach to being healed of sex in that sense, if you've been traumatized, if something traumatic has happened to you. If nothing traumatic happened to you sexually, like for me, and it's just shit I've made up. Did I say, can you curse? And it's like recording it. They're going to be like, we're never inviting her anymore. It's just stuff that has come up as a result of me trying to manipulate and manage life. That I truly believe can be healed sexually. And it has been for me. Does that make sense? All right.
I just think in terms of healing compliance or, codependent characteristics, I think asking for what you need, boundaries, communication, helps with that immensely. Otherwise, it's unmanageability for me.
Exactly. So he was just making a statement of truth for him. He was saying that that healing happens for him when those boundaries are in place. With the compliance.
With sexually.
Yeah.
With expressing needs and communicating.
That's how you became healed. By expressing your needs, by communicating. Right? This is beautiful.
Out of time.
We are out of time. I know. I know. It's fascinating how quickly the time goes. Thank you. I absolutely appreciate your attention. I know you have lots of workshops you could go to, so I thank you for attending.